Hello everyone, 5:30 p.m. It's Saturday. And here we are at the Learning Forward India Foundation to welcome you at the Teachers Academy. I think you see on the screen the new website. If you see it on the screen, say yes in the chat box. Thank you, Kushbu. So, it's taken us 4 years to figure out why we are here. And this keeps changing every day, every hour, every minute. But finally, we know why we are here. We are embracing the joy of reading together. And I think we wanted to make this very clear why we are here. So, whether we are here with you at the Teachers Academy, which is now on Friday and Saturday, on Friday in the form of book reading and a meeting where we talk to you with challenges you face. We bring people to speak with you. There was an excellent conversation yesterday with Kamala Mukunda. I wish if some of you had attended. I think it was a very good learning session of 45 minutes. I must thank Nilashi Mangal for hosting her first maiden session. The next session on Friday is on 17th October, same brewing knowledge conversations, and the gentleman is Dr. Anupam Sibbal. Mark your calendar. We only admit 100 people on Fridays. We can't cross beyond that because we will keep it as a limited affairs meeting. Saturday, we meet you again. Focus is on reading. Of course, Friday, there is reading, there's discussion, there's meet the author. There's a little more than focusing on just one thing like we do with you as we are focusing on productive failure on Saturday. Again, when you go on Sunday to My Good School, the focus is on joy of reading. When we create a weekly for you, we give you reading content. The focus again is on the joy of reading. So that's all we do. We just read. We wanted to make that communication very clear. And towards that, we have set up this Snehilata Prize. The little video is there. You may enjoy looking at that. Yeah. So what does reading do and why GSA was created? This one graphic explains everything. So reading will help in critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, character, and citizenships. At the Good Schools Alliance, we aim to inspire and empower students through innovative learning experiences. We believe that reading is the key to unlocking a bright future for every child. Then Krista's message is back on the website why you should join. Yes, this is what I wanted to share with you. Our Joy of Learning program. So on Monday, you get the Joy of Learning weekly. On Monday evenings, we have a meeting. All are welcome. Anyone who's passionate about volunteering at the Good School Alliance, please join us on the Monday evening meeting. Then we have the Brewing Knowledge Fridays. I've just spoken about that. We have Dreamtime Learning Saturdays, which is something very new, which focuses on writing, storytelling, publishing. This is hosted by Dreamtime Learning of Lena Usher. They are now part of our programs on the website. Let me just show you this programs on the website. Yeah. So My Good School, we all know. Dreamtime Learning, we've added. Teachers Academy, we all know. My Good School Retreat coming up at Sunbeam Grameen School on 27th of October, and the program is all set. We've added something interesting called Youth Engaging Society. Explore it in your time. Let me just go back here. So we are here at the Teachers Academy Masterclass Saturday. Tomorrow is My Good School, and finally the retreat. Yes, we thank the English Book Depot for supporting us. 101 years old, just for the joy of reading. They cherish the gift of reading, and that's why we are here. Some fun pictures and an album to show people reading, people reflecting, people thinking. You will enjoy that. Yes, please support us. Thank you so much. That's all for the website and all the fun. Let's go back to the book. So, in productive failure, we were here last week where we are actually working to complete the assembly part. So, how do you assemble productive failure? That's the challenge we all face. And yes, some of you have actually started doing it beautifully. So, last time we explored educational strategies for enhancing student learning through multiple examples and case comparisons, emphasizing the importance of explicit principles and direct prompts for effective knowledge transfer. We also included last time a discussion on survivorship bias, not a discussion, but a chapter read from the new book, Art of Thinking Clearly. We hope we can read a chapter today, time permitting. Here we go. I am now on page 157 of the digital book. And if you have the print book, I've even marked that page. It's the same. This is the print book page only, which is marked below. Who is the better champion? An equal number of students competed in the 100-meter sprint and 100-meter swim finals. The timings in seconds of the champions of the 100-meter sprint and 100-meter swim are shown below, as are the average timings, mean and standard deviation of the finalists in the two competitions. So champions scored 11 seconds in the sprint and 40 seconds in the swim. Mean is 12 seconds, 45 seconds, standard deviation is 1 second, 10 seconds. Assuming all being equal, who is a better champion? If you look at just the difference between timing of the champion and the mean of the finalist, the sprint champion is 1 second faster than the average, whereas the swim champion is 5 seconds faster than the average. So, one may argue that the swim champion is a better champion. This is the wrong answer. One also needs to take into the account the standard deviation, which is a measure of how the finalists are spread out. If the finalists were more spread out, the standard deviation will be high and vice versa. It is a relatively easier feat for the champion to be faster than the average if the finalists are more spread out than not. Therefore, to solve this problem, one has to take the difference between the champion and the mean and divide it by the standard deviation of the finalist. The sprint champion is exactly one standard deviation faster than the mean, whereas the swim champion is zero point 0.5 standard deviation faster than the mean. Therefore, the sprint champion is a better champion. This is one of the transfer questions that I used in my experiments. A way you can make an experiment like this also, when I captured the transfer effects of productive failure versus direct instruction. Recall that after students learn the concept of standard deviation, either through productive failure or direct instruction, they are tested to see how deeply they understand the concept and how well they can transfer it. For someone to solve the who's the better champion transfer problem, they need to know the following components. One, the mean and how to calculate it. Two, the difference between the point and the mean. Three, the standard deviation and how to calculate it. Students in both the conditions know these components because, on procedural knowledge, both groups of students performed equally well. That is, they could calculate the standard deviation of a given data set and solve problems on it. And as I showed earlier in this section, to calculate the standard deviation, one has to know the three components. SD also means Sandeep Dutt. Sorry for that. So, in spite of knowing the three components equally well, they did productive failure students transfer better than direct instruction students. After all, to solve the transfer problem, all they had to do was to take the difference between the champion mean and they divide that between by the standard deviation. It was because knowledge of the components is necessary but not sufficient. To solve the transfer problem, the three components needed to be assembled in a new way, a way that had not seen or encountered before. So, even if both groups of students had the same components, learning through productive failure resulted in a more flexible assembly of the components than direct instruction. As we saw in chapter 2, in the case of children being told how to play with toys, direct instruction somehow limits the flexibility with which children play with the toy. In other words, direct instruction increases the likelihood of functional fixedness. Dunkard, 1945. Productive failure, in contrast, affords flexible assembly and allows students to reassemble the components in a new way to solve a much harder problem. How much like how Houston put together hoses from the astronaut spacesuit, tube socks, cardstock, and duct tape to assemble a filtration system. I hope you remember the example of the Apollo, how the breathing system failed and how they put together. So let's take this. This is an interesting quote. I'll put it down in your chat. Try and use this quote to create an experiment. It'll be interesting if you can use it. So the quote is with you in your chat box. The danger of learning the wrong things is overestimated. One question I am asked quite often when giving talks on productive failure that the underlying mechanism is it not dangerous to activate misconceptions, errors, and failed answers or solutions because they may stick and worse interfere with learning the correct knowledge? Another way to put the underlying argument would be that it could be counterproductive to retrieve incorrect knowledge, for it could strengthen those very retrieval paths, and we need to avoid so that these paths don't interfere with the retrieval paths to the correct knowledge. Cool, let's take a pause here. Today, when you type in your search bar any question, any prompt, and information shows up, the important element here is that there's all the chance that information may not be authenticated. And perhaps you all are also getting messages from banks and everyone that if you get a message, please see that this code is there on your SMS from the sender. So whole challenge is that authentication is the key. So if you look at productive failure, you may get incorrect information popping up. But then from the host of incorrect information, one has to choose the correct information. That is the beauty, and that's why you will understand better because you can separate hay from the chaff. That's the better part. So let's go ahead. Fortunately, we have nothing to worry about for two diametrically opposite reasons: pruning failure and prompting failure. So let's understand what happens. Pruning failure. We now know that multiple studies that our brains have an amazing capacity to prune as we learn and grow. Some of you have even heard in AI, you can actually get the summary of a book. So it prunes it that much. In this pioneering work in 1979, Peter Huttenlocher demonstrated how our brains develop a dense sense of neuronal connections during the first 2 years, much like the overgrown garden. However, as we age and learn, our brains begin to prune away the unused or unnecessary connections, while strengthening those that have proved beneficial, much like a gardener might prune unwanted weeds and such over time. It has become generally accepted that such pruning in the brain starts around age 2 and is completed during the adolescence. In 2011, however, Pettenjek and colleagues further showed that pruning in fact continues beyond adolescence, well into our late 20s before stabilizing. Our brain's ability to prune suggests that just because there is a connection, a retrieval path, it does not mean it cannot be suppressed or erased over time. What is needed is appropriate feedback to learn from. Use it or lose it, it is one feedback mechanism. That is, if you do not use the words direct instructions like the likelihood of functional fixedness, productive failure in class, sorry, I think, yeah, the brain's ability to prune suggests that just because there is a connection, A retrieval path, it does not mean it cannot be suppressed or erased. So let's take this. I'll just keep this for you. What is needed is appropriate feedback to learn from. Use it or lose it is one feedback mechanism. That is, if you do not use the connection, you are giving feedback that you do not need the connection over time. Therefore, you lose it. So, this is an important part. Another feedback is corrective, where you are told the correct answer or explanation, as we have seen in several studies earlier. And John Hattie's 2009 meta analysis robustly shows that feedback is one of the most powerful mechanisms of learning. We have Hattie's study on visible learning. I do hope as we go along that we will even do this study one day in the masterclass. So I'm hoping that this masterclass, which you and us do, will go for a period of time. And we have authenticated data that when you work with us for 3 years, we assure you will become principal one day if you're a teacher. That's the promise. I have enough examples of the teachers who went through our first cycle of the professional learning program from 2014 to 2017, and already 50% of them have become teachers. They're all from one school, and that school has sent principals to schools in the city from a village. It's called the Fab India School. So there is success in what we have done, and that's productive failure because we set out to working in a village. We set out to working with teachers who no one thought would be leaders one day. And that's the challenge we ask you all to take. There is the leader in you. Don't forget that. And you will find it. Here you learn the connection is encoding an error or is faulty, and that there is another connection that is more productive or useful or correct. The contrast between the failed path and the successful path is necessary, making it quite plausible that activating incorrect knowledge or errors, which in turn activate those unwanted retrieval paths, is actually necessary for pruning to take place. This morning in my garden, I was talking to my gardener. This word pruning takes me to my garden. And we are intentionally letting some of our greens grow more than we actually need them. And we will prune them at the right time when we feel that we have the right design in the garden. So, why I'm talking of pruning here? Pruning, whether you do it in gardening or in your mind, you come out with something beautiful. You come out with success after productive failure. So, pruning is essentially an art in which you use productive failure to remove what is unwanted. Obviously, pruning cannot succeed if there is nothing to prune. So you have to first let things grow wild, your imagination go wild, and then try and put things in perspective. Some things that get pruned are generated naturally through our daily learning and living. Others, especially if you are learning something new, may need to be intentionally generated in service of deep learning. Failure based generation can therefore be seen as a way to intentionally generate errors and then suppress or prune them with feedback, making future recall of the correct paths easier. Promoting failure. Another way to think exactly the opposite. Far from pruning, perhaps failures need promoting. For promoting failure can aid learning by providing opportunities to learn from failure. Indeed, the first line of evidence comes from the analysis of students engaged in learning from productive failure. Although, on average, students generate many solutions during the problem solving phase, some students generate more than others. In fact, the design, as we shall see in the next chapter, is such that it actually encourages students to generate as many solutions as they can, even if what they generate is suboptimal or incorrect. So, when you ask a question in a class, please accept as many answers as possible. And then, from the answers which you have got, have the students decide what should be the correct answer. I've given you another way of doing a productive failure experiment. The variation in student production allows us to ask an important question. Do students who generate more failed solutions also learn from subsequent instruction? In several studies, the answer to question, directly or indirectly, has been yes. Students who generate more on average learn more from subsequent instruction and perform better on deep understanding and transfer than those who generate less. If generating failed solutions are problematic, these incorrect solutions would have turned up on the post test, but they did not. So if someone is always answering without thinking or whatever comes to the mind, that's where you see this process is happening. So a student who's always eager to answer and respond, yes, if he responds 10 times, he will find the best answer and the first answer and the correct answer in one of his 10. And that will be a good experiment of productive failure. One way to explain this is that if by generating failed solutions we strengthen the retrieval paths, then we are also strengthening the retrieval paths of the correct solutions. When the teacher or an expert engages in comparing and contrasting the incorrect and correct solutions, they not only help students understand what works and why, but the feedback also helps students hone their selection and discrimination capabilities. That is, precisely because of generating failed solutions, students have the opportunity to learn to discriminate between the correct and incorrect solutions and select the correct procedures for solving the problem. Without the failed solutions, the development of these functions would not be possible. There is a reason why I always remember the word is carpentry, not carpenting. Remembering the incorrect option actually aids my memory of the correct one. For the same reason, I remember the failure of addictive logic with my son, as it facilitates the memory of the correct logic. In other words, far from pruning failure, comparing and contrasting, coupled with feedback, can actually result in retrieval paths to incorrect and correct knowledge in a way that facilitates recall. This is called mediated recall. Incorrect knowledge can serve as a mediator, connecting the question with the correct answer. Sometimes you have to go through the incorrect knowledge to get the correct knowledge, and there is nothing to worry about that. But correlation is not causation. Just because those who generated more solutions also learned more does not mean promoting failure causes learning. All it shows is failure is associated with learning. For causation, one has to manipulate the failure and success rates experimentally. This is what we are asking you to do, manipulate the failure and success rates experimentally. One simple way to manipulate failure rate experimentally is to provide guidance under the problem solving phase, as shown in figure 6.4. Imagine two groups of students, both learning from productive failure. In the problem solving phase of productive failure, one group is given the challenging problem, example, the basketball problem that scores one, and asked to generate as many solutions as they can. No further help or support is given other than encouragement. And as we saw in chapter 2, students are not able to generate the correct solution. They generate several solutions, but none of them are correct. There is therefore a high failure rate condition. Now imagine for the other group. We provide prompts and hints as students generate solutions. The prompts and hints are designed to help them to get to the correct solution. And these prompts and hints reduce the failure rate or equally increase the success rate. So you have an unguided problem solving and you have a guided problem solving. Both you have put in place. Then there's an instruction phase and there's a post test. So let's see when you compare guided versus unguided productive failure. In both groups of students were given instruction on the targeted concept, who would learn more? That's the question. Will it be the first group who had a high failure rate in the problem solving phase, or the second group who had a success rate in the problem solving phase? Answering the question was part of my 2011 study, and I found it was the high failure rate group that learns more. They outperform the high success rate group on deep understanding and transfer on the post test. Encouraging or promoting failure facilitates learning. Reducing failure hurts learning. A simple casual demonstration while promoting failure is good for deep learning transfer. Let's take this. I need to give you two of my snippets. This is the earlier one, which I want you to keep. And this is the second one, which I have added to you. Check out the snippets if you are nearby to your device. Otherwise, don't worry, you will get them as we finish. Another way to promote failure without having students generate it themselves is to design opportunities for students to learn from others' failed solutions. Instead of generating multiple solutions in the problem solving phase, all of which are suboptimal or incorrect, what if we simply gave students the opportunity to study the failed solutions that their peers generated? I call this learning from vicarious failure. In a 214 study, I carried out experiments with three conditions as shown below. So, productive failure, vicarious failure, and direct instruction. In the first case, there was problem solving, instruction, and post test. Second phase, study failed solutions, instruction and post test. And third phase, with instructions, problem solving, and post test. Comparing productive failure with vicarious failure and direct instructions. Two of the conditions are exactly the same as in the original experiments, productive failure and direct instruction. I added a third condition called vicarious failure into the mix. As the name suggests, students were asked to study the typical and incorrect solutions that their peers generated during the problem solving phase. They did not have to generate any solutions, they were given the opportunity to learn vicariously from the typical field solutions of their peers. After that, they received instruction. On the post test, I found that all three conditions did equally well on the procedural knowledge items. However, on deep understanding and transfer, productive failure students performed the best, following by vicarious failure and then direct instructions. What these findings suggest is that we learn more from our own failed solutions than if we merely study others' failed solutions. But absent the opportunity to generate their own, we are still better off learning from others' failed solutions than simply being told the correct solution through direct instruction. Combining evidence from correctional and casual studies as well as evidence from learning from vicarious failure, we see that promoting failure during problem solving, when carefully designed, has strong effects on deep learning and transfer. Far from worrying about it, we need to intentionally design it in a safe and supporting way. Let's take this also. So I'm giving you a new term, vicarious flavor. So I've captured this and I'm putting this down for you to have a look at this. No problem. It's all with you. Note the power of productive failure cannot be realized without assembly. You can activate all the prior knowledge you want, create heightened awareness, build the right affective state, but without a proper assembly. All of it goes to waste. Assembly done well brings it all together and turns what seems initially to be exploration and failure into something that makes for deep learning. Okay, so we will now look at the takeaways. Key takeaways from the assembly part. Lego blocks of prior knowledge. Good teaching involves identifying parts of students' thinking or reasoning that can be used for learning. Think of these parts as Lego blocks. Teachers' role in knowledge assembly. Teachers play a vital role in the knowledge assembly process by connecting new information with their prior knowledge, guiding them to reconfigure known elements or Lego blocks to learn new concepts. Comparing and contrasting deeper understanding. Good assembly incorporates comparing and contrasting of cases examples, solutions, and so on to help the learner see and discern key features of concepts, enhancing their understanding and capacity to apply the knowledge. Okay, let me give you this. So, your key takeaway part one is here, and let's do the key takeaway part two. Yeah. Cognitive flexibility and transfer of knowledge. Good assembly also ensures cognitive flexibility, that is, the ability to see any concept or solution as an assembly of components, while recognizing that the components can be flexibly repurposed, recombined, and rearranged to assemble solutions for some other, often novel context. Flexibility drives transfer. Concerns about learning the wrong things. Pruning and promoting failures both ensure that the chance of learning the wrong thing is low. Failed solutions create a contrast with correct solutions, helping you distinguish and select correct knowledge over incorrect knowledge. So let's get this second phase of key takeaways. Add a bookmark, and then we go into the last part of the book called Designing Productive Failure. Let me create a bookmark. It's now just over 6 p.m. Time for the next exciting part, art of thinking clearly. Can anyone shout out next Saturday? It will be September, and next Saturday will be 6th, is that right?
Yeah. We'll celebrate Teachers' Day on 6th.
So 6th September, we will have you with us post your Teacher's Day. I'm sure you'll have a lot to share and a lot to read. Thank you. Bye bye, productive failure for today. Let's go to the library. So we are back into the library. This is the modern version of the library. Now that we're visiting the library, you can see this library is full of books. It's only a reflection of some books which I have. Otherwise, if you come back here, there is far more. You'll see the diverse reading from NDTV frauds to Startup Nation to Greatest Salesman of the World, reading Sanya's story, Art of Happiness, Ignited Minds. I don't even remember when I read these books, honestly. There's so many of them. But I do remember Schools Can Change, and that's what made me do what I have done with you. This book I bought in 2013. It helped me create exactly everything we are doing together, creating a culture of trust and learning. The whole story started with this book. And as luck would have it, I read the book in 2013 and I ended up meeting the author in 2015. And I met the author in 2015, where in Vancouver, Canada. And then we worked together with the Fab India Schools Professional Learning Program, which evolved between that 15 December and 2017 December. So that's what books do. They take you anywhere in the world. Art of Thinking Clearly, it'll have a different cover with you if you have a hardback, which is the book. It's very reasonably priced, only 114 rupees if you buy the Kindle. So today we read. Yeah, Rajni, we have the book on the screen today. Does Howard make you smarter? Swimmer's Body Illusion. An essayist and trader, Nazim Taleb, resolved to do something about the stubborn extra pounds he had been carrying. He contemplated taking up various sports. However, joggers seemed scrawny and unhappy, and bodybuilders looked broad and stupid. And tennis players? Oh, so upper middle class. Swimmers, though, appealed to him with their well built, streamlined bodies. He decided to sign up at his local swimming pool and to train hard twice a week. So we are trying to answer, does Howard make you smarter? A shorter while later, he realized that he had succumbed to an illusion. Professional swimmers don't have perfect bodies because they train extensively. Rather, they are good swimmers because of their physiques. How their bodies are designed is a factor of selection, not the result of their activities. Similarly, female models advertise cosmetics, and thus many female consumers believe that these products make you beautiful. But it is not the cosmetics that make these women model like. Quite simply, the models are born attractive, and only for this reason are they candidates for cosmetic advertising. Think, think, think. As with swimmers' bodies, beauty is a factor for selection, not the result. And you are only looking at the result. Whenever we confuse selection factors with results, we fall prey to what Taleb calls the swimmer's body illusion. Without this illusion, half of advertising campaigns would not work. But this bias has to do with more than just the pursuit of chiseled cheekbones and chests. For example, Harvard has the reputation of being a top university. Many highly successful people have studied there. Does this mean Harvard is a good school? We don't know. Perhaps the school is terrible and it simply recruits the brightest students around. I experienced this phenomena at the University of St. Gallen in Switzerland. It is said to be one of the top 10 business schools in Europe, but the lessons I received, although not that this was 25 years ago, were mediocre. Nevertheless, many of its graduates were successful. The reason behind this is unknown. Perhaps it was due to the climate in the narrow valley or even the cafeteria food. Most probable, however, is that rigorous selection. All over the world, MBA schools lure candidates with statistics regarding future income. This simple calculation is supposed to show that the horrendously high tuition fee pay for themselves after a short period of time. Many prospective students fall for this approach. I'm not implying that the schools doctor the statistics, but still their statement must not be swallowed wholesale. Why? Because those who pursue an MBA are different from those who do not. The income gap between the groups stems from a multitude of reasons and have nothing to do with the MBA degree itself. Once again, we see the swimmer's body illusion at work. The factor for selection confused with the result. So if you're considering further study, do it for reasons other than a big paycheck. When I ask happy people about the secret of their contentment, I often hear answers like, you have to see the glass half full rather than half empty. It is as if these individuals do not realize that they are born happy and now tend to see the positive in everything. They do not realize that cheerfulness, according to many studies, such as those conducted by Harvard's Dan Gilbert, is largely a personality trait that remains constant throughout life. Or, as social scientists Licken and Telgen starkly suggest, trying to be happier is as futile as trying to be taller. आप अपना कद बढ़ा नहीं सकते अगर आप जिम बार पे लटक भी जाए तो. Thus, the swimmer's body illusion is also a self illusion. When these optimists write self help books, the illusion can become treacherous. That's why it's important to give a wide berth to tips and advice from self help authors. You can count me into that, I guess. For billions of people, the pieces of advice are unlikely to help. But one help I must tell you is read books. That helps because that's why we are here. But because the unhappy don't write self help books about their failures, this fact remains hidden. So, what's the takeaway from the swimmer's body illusion? In conclusion, be wary when you are encouraged to strive for certain things, be it abs of steel, immaculate looks, a higher income, a long life, a particular demeanor, or happiness. You might fall prey to the swimmer's body illusion. Before you decide to take the plunge, look in the mirror and be honest about what you see. I say this every day. The ability to reflect is the most important thing. I'm not talking of hypothetical reflection. I'm actually looking at the mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the most beautiful of all? And that's you. There are connections in this book. He connects chapters. So if you look at the swimmer's body illusion, it connects with the halo effect. It connects with the outcome bias. It comes with self selection bias. It comes with alternative blindness and fundamental attribution error. So these are chapters ahead. So it's a very interesting way of designing a book. And that's what I like about Rod Dobelli. I think he's a design thinker whom I would like to meet. And maybe one day we'll get Rob to come to our Teachers Academy if you have the patience to wait for him and we have read the book. If we read one chapter a week, it'll take us 2 years to read the book. Anyway, I hope you'll survive 2 years. I would love that if you survive 2 years. And yes, this is not a swimmer's body illusion. I promise you, you'll become an avid reader. That's my promise to you. So let's get out of the body illusion. Let's put a bookmark. Why you see shapes in the clouds? Let's not read this. We will mark it here. That's a bookmark, and that goes into your conversation in the Teachers Academy as the next bookmark. I'll just write bookmark 2 so it'll be clear. Bookmark 1 is already there. So bookmarks are done. We are on track. We will stop sharing and let me come back into the class. So I'm so glad you're all here. Now you see a physical library, not a digital library at the back. And two important things that I want to share with you today. One, I have mentioned in a small video post the other day. We are now hoping that we can build capacity at the Learning Forward India Foundation. And on 1st September, we are hoping to put in place a manager for learning and development. In the next 3-4 months down the line, maybe November, December, we want to have a business manager also. And finally, a projects manager. So we're looking forward to these people coming on board between now and March. And like my friend Kunal says, Mr. Dutt, please leave operations alone for some time. Don't be so fastidious about quality. I think I need to learn from this message and build a team and let the team take things ahead. I'm not going anywhere, but like I have to think ahead and perhaps doing 7 hours of Zoom sessions every evening or every week or the way we are doing them is not the best I can help you with. So I intend to work more on design, research, thinking, reading, and come to you with better quality content in the sessions. So the Friday session will be anchored by Neelashi as we go along. And on that note, I think I need to take you to back to the website. So if you go to the website, and I will show you what the website has got some new improvements. So on the home page, you have good schools and you have programs. So you will see the program has improved slightly. We had My Good School, Teachers Academy, and My Good School Retreat. Now we've added Dreamtime Learning and Youth Engaging Society. Let's go to Joy of Learning. So Joy of Learning has got pruned. And from here, I want to head to YouTube. So when I head to YouTube, I really want you people in this week, when you get your newsletter on Monday, please play this conversation which you missed yesterday. And the good part in that is, so you must get this conversation from YouTube. I'm sure you can see it. I don't want to play it. More important than that, we have done some massive hard work to put AI generated content below the show notes. Please read these show notes. We have invested very heavily in AI. AI is costing us almost 5 lakhs an annum to support us. So please make use of that investment. You don't have to pay because you've already invested in all the tools which you put together. And who says AI is not useful or AI will replace you? AI has not replaced me. AI has not replaced you. So if you thought tools could replace humans, give it a thought. So this is the video I want you to watch. It's on the YouTube channel. To get to the YouTube channel is very, very easy. How do you do that? You only go for every solution to the Good Schools Alliance website, schooleducation.com. Embrace the joy of learning. Understand why you and us are together. I think I will actually put this in your chat. You need to just put this colorful chart on your pinup board or put it as a screensaver or something. And do see these six things which are of solid impact, and ensure that you prepare every child to unlock for a brighter future. There's nothing more I want to share on this. Yes, some of your friends or some of your colleagues or some of the other schools may want you to ask what is Good School Alliance. We're getting a lot of questions. So there's a membership page, and on the membership page, we have actually explained what Good School Alliance is all about. That's why you are here. The important part is this incubator or the GSA squad. At the GSA squad, we get teacher volunteers from across schools and ask some of them, it's worth being in the GSA squad. You don't have to be a GSA coordinator, you can be a volunteer to join us. And I'm looking forward to some of my teachers from the Teachers Academy repaying their debt to their guru as Guru Dakshina and volunteering in the GSA squad, because I think that's what keeps us alive, that's what keeps us going, and that's what will help the joy of reading pervade. I don't have to share any more tools and tricks. I'm back on the screen with you. If there's any question, I can ask, unmute, please put your hand up. Anything you want to say, anything you want to do, you can't show me your hand up or your head up, but you can do it in the chat box or use the icons and reactions. I'm happy to answer. I asked a question in the beginning. Have you bought a copy of Art of Thinking Clearly? Please, some of you have responded. I suggest others buy it. It's a book we'll use for 2 years. There is no conversation in the chat box which needs to be answered. There is no hand up. Yes, there is a like there. Thank you so much. With that, we end at 6:17 p.m. 2 minutes more than our standard 45 minutes. Thank you for bearing with us. And let me tell you, we love you for what you do, and God bless you. Go home today, look into the mirror, and say, I love you, and see how that feels. Bye bye.
Bye,
We'll
sir.
give.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.